But anyways, this is a setup I'm watching for with APPC. Pretty similar to a framework that I've used a ton. You guys know August, September 12th low, right? That's the cycle low, just to give everyone a little bit of an idea of where we are, right? So that's probably the most ideal area I could have bought APPC, right? That's where alpha is, that's where DNT is, that's where most of the ideas that I like to trade are. They're all kind of at September 12th low. Go is down here, right? That's why I like a lot of those coins. This one is a little bit above that cycle low, but looking at this level, this mid kind of range level, if I'm now saying the bottom of the range is 1,000 sats, that's September 12th cycle lows, you know, the most important or a really nice just guide for me on how an alt is valued, right? Is it right by its cycle lows? That means it's pretty cheap. Where was the previous swing high when alts did well? Well, for this, you know, September little cycle, that was about up by, 2,000 sats, right? So almost a 2x. So there's a range of about 100%. Right now, we're not even half or kind of midway up the range, but there is one important level between kind of the high or the swing highs up here and the cycle low. And that level for me is 1410 sats. So you can see daily resistance respected here. We have one time there was a fake out, right? So one time this level was crossed and we actually went back down to cycle lows. The second time it was attempted, and you can see right when it's passed, volume really starts kicking in and a quick 40% pop up to where? Exact same thing as almost every other target I'm going to set for Litecoin, for all the others, right up to the next support resistance flip, right? So that's around 2,000 sats. So that's a 40% move when that happened. Now that area becomes support, right when that area is now broken. Right, here's support. Right when that area is now broken, you can see it already flip back to resistance. Resistance wicks up, resistance wicks up, and now we're right at that resistance. So for me, obviously we could get a scenario where we break past 1410 and nothing happens, but if now we have correlation on our side, alts are doing quite well. If they continue to do well, I would imagine 1410 gets passed, and I'd be looking for that 30-40% pop again to at least 2,050, 2,070 sats. I think you guys can see the setup there. The smaller time frame stuff that I'm looking at here, if we look at the last two times we've touched this resistance, 1410, and why I might not have been as interested there, but maybe I am today, looking at price action those two times, right? We have, let me get all these lines out of here. Right, so 1410 is kind of my area of significance or area that I'm focused on now as the resistance that needs to be crossed for this trade to trigger and for me to think we run another 30-40%. Previous price action of these points was really sharp wicks up, no price kind of hung around here, no consolidation up here, just a wick up, rejection, and then we trade back down. Exact same thing here, right? Really short time frame spikes through and then price immediately dropping a few percent back down, never really hanging right at that resistance. Compare that to now and what we've had over the last 2 or 3 days since the 11th. So really since this weekend, 10th we got up here, 11th now we're just hanging. Instead of those short, small time frame kind of rejections, just like IOST, right? We have price hitting resistance, comes down slightly, hits resistance, comes down slightly. And you can see price is kind of, the way I like to think about it is obviously every single price on the chart is where demand and supply are meeting at that current point in time. Right, so you can think of supply being up here, people willing to sell up here. There's probably buy orders under here. What we're only seeing on the chart is where was the last order executed. So that's the current price. The way I like to think about price consolidating or moving into resistance is demand or buy orders are kind of eating into that supply. Right, so instead of being rejected, right, so people were buying, price got up here, and then either sell orders happened or there just wasn't any more buy pressure, so we moved back down. Now you can kind of contrast that to what's happening here. Buy orders are incrementally kind of stepping in each step of the way, or sellers don't have enough power to kind of reject it. Either way, demand is kind of outbalancing supply here. Just based on that price action, consolidating right resistance, it makes me believe that a breakout is more likely than it is the past 2 times with the sharp rejections. And so the only reason I'm highlighting that is I prefer for a lot of these setups, and you guys know it, I almost always like to wait for the daily close above. That's worked out very well for us even this year, but there will be times where maybe that is a little bit too slow moving. EOS is a good example. We have Litecoin as a good example, right? It helped me catch one trade, But the second trade, I waited for the daily close above. The daily close above was 10% higher. Right, so one way, if you did want to be moving a little bit quicker and maybe anticipating the breakout instead of waiting for kind of the daily close would happen here and then a retest, right? There's two different entry points, entry 1 or entry 2. Instead of waiting for those and you really liked APPC or you wanted a new alt trade or whatever that is, not even for this particular coin, let's say you see this opportunity elsewhere, consolidation right at that resistance is generally going to be a bullish sign, and that's kind of one of the signs that would make me want to enter something anticipating a breakout. Right, so that's why I wanted to cover just two different ways to look at that. You know, I always kind of make my way clear, but there is kind of always a different way to play that, and I want to cover that especially after.